Sometimes, knowing thy enemy is easier said than done.
Number 2 has done well. Unlike Count Lippe, whose choice of Angelo might have jeopardized the success of our project. Send a message to the execution branch.
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 movies in which the hero and villain never meet. For this list, we're looking at films in which the protagonist and the big bad never actually meet face to face.
He's just a goddamn homicidal lunatic yet, Tom.
I'm not sure he's a lunatic.
Yeah, well, what would you call him?
Yeah, sometimes I think he's pretty much a ghost.
They might share a phone conversation or have a close encounter in some sort of vehicular chase, but they never really get a proper in-person introduction. Just so you know, a spoiler alert may be in order.
The mere sight of him would only encourage an enemy to take over the whole country. So does that.
Number 10, Robert Graysmith and the Zodiac Killer, Zodiac.
I need to know who he is. I need to stand there. I need to look him in the eye. And I need to know that it's him.
Nobody does serial killer crime thrillers quite like David Fincher, who also gave us the excellent 1995 film Seven.
David, if you kill him, he will win.
He returned to the genre over a decade later, directing what many have called his unsung masterpiece.
I can't prove this. Just because you can't prove it doesn't mean it's not true.
Telling the true story of an elusive killer who was never captured or identified is no small feat.
I'm not the Zodiac. And if I was, I certainly wouldn't tell you.
For the task, Fincher enlisted Jake Gyllenhaal to play Robert Graysmith, a journalist determined to identify the killer. And although Graysmith meets multiple suspects over the years, as history has shown, none was ever confirmed as the true culprit.
What do you want out of this?
What?
What's your angle? This is good business for everyone but you.
How do you mean business?
Fincher spent a year and a half conducting his own investigations into the murders to prepare for the film. It's hard to imagine anyone doing the story greater justice.
Got any hard suspects?
About 90 an hour, come up to around 500.
Number 9, James Bond and Ernst Stavro Blofeld, Thunderball.
Spectre is a dedicated fraternity whose strength lies in the absolute integrity of its members. The culprit is known to me. I've decided on the appropriate action.
Dr. Evil is now probably more recognizable than his inspiration. The bald-headed, facially scarred, white cat-stroking head of Spectre, Ernst Stavro Blofeld.
For your sake, I hope so.
First appearing briefly in the 1963 film From Russia with Love, Blofeld really made his presence known in Thunderball, despite keeping his screen time to a minimum. Bond starts off the movie by pursuing and killing Spectre operative number 6. He then squares off against operative number 2 for the majority of the film. However, as shown at the meeting of Spectre agents, where Blofeld ruthlessly sentences a fellow operative to death, Blofeld is the true mastermind behind the plot. Working from the shadows, he would continue to challenge Bond in future films.
Our expectations were considerably higher, number 11.
Number 8, Bambi and the Hunter, Bambi.
Why did we all run? Man was in the forest.
Disney has created many dastardly villains, but few are as reviled as the Hunter. In film, nothing seems to upset viewers more than the death of an animal, especially an animated one. After he scarred a generation of children by killing Bambi's mother, the Hunter and Bambi never come face to face.
Your mother can't be with you anymore.
In fact, the Hunter, or Man as he's also called, never even fully appears on screen. You can tell whenever a scene will involve him, however, as a particular piece of music plays, signaling his presence. The film originally contained a scene in which Bambi's father shows Bambi the hunter's corpse, but unsurprisingly, it was cut after being deemed too dark.
It is man. He is here again. There are many this time.
Number 7. William Wallace and King Edward Longshanks, Braveheart.
Bring me Wallace. Alive if possible. Dead. Just as good.
King Edward I and William Wallace may have led their respective forces at Falkirk, but as is so often the case in war, the leaders never personally clash swords.
But if I'm senseless or if I wail, then Longshanks will have broken me.
His troops defeated, Wallace makes a valiant effort of killing Longshanks, but the closest he ever comes is chasing after the king as he rides away. This attempted pursuit is intercepted by one of the king's lancers, Robert the Bruce, who, rather than killing Wallace as one might expect, brings him to safety.
Get up! Get up! Get him out of here! Jesus!
By the time William is captured and killed many years later, Longshanks is seemingly too old and sickly to attend his foe's execution. As such, the mortal enemies never come face to face. Number 6. Captain Marko Ramius and Captain Viktor Tupolev, The Hunt for Red October.
You're afraid of our fleet. Well, you should be.
We've all seen countless examples of Americans squaring off against Soviets in film. But Soviets against Soviets? In this Cold War action spy thriller, the two submarine commanders, Marko Ramius and Viktor Tupolev, already have a history, as Marko was Tupolev's mentor. But when you're duking it out underwater, a face-to-face confrontation isn't so easy to arrange.
We're going to kill a friend, Yevgeny. We're going to kill Ramius.
So, mentor and pupil are forced to sort out their political differences separated by steel, titanium, and a whole lot of water.
No officer will spend more than 20 minutes below deck.
The two captains lead their respective vessels in offensive maneuvers, ultimately resulting in the destruction of Tupolev's submarine, the Konovalov, with some help from the American submarine, Dallas. That's what happens when you let torpedoes do the talking.
There is one question you haven't asked me yet. Why?
Number 5. Frodo Baggins and Sauron, the Lord of the Rings franchise.
The Dark Lord Sauron forged in secret a master ring to control all others.
Frodo and Sauron may never meet, but the Eye of Sauron certainly spends a lot of time trying to spot the little hobbit. When Frodo first puts on the ring in the Prancing Pony, he gets a face full of Sauron's incorporeal self, which is both awesome and terrifying.
I see.
By this point in the history of Middle-earth, Sauron is incapable of taking a physical form, and thus has become a much more ephemeral force of darkness rather than someone you can actually shake hands with.
Together, my Lord Sauron, we shall rule this Middle-earth.
He knows that a halfling has the ring, and that his name is Baggins. But which of the 4 halflings tormenting his minions is it? Fortunately for the Fellowship, Sauron fails to identify Frodo as the ring bearer until it's too late. Number 4. Sheriff Ed Tom Bell and Anton Chigurh, No Country for Old Men.
I always figured when I got older, God would sort of come into my life somehow. And he didn't. And I don't blame him.
They don't make him like Sheriff Ed Tom Bell anymore. He's a relic from a simpler time in law enforcement, before crime became so vicious.
Now that's aggravating.
His character might be defined by his world weariness, but he's ultimately a relatable, likable man. Which is why audiences should be happy that this hero never actually got to meet the villain.
Don't put it in your pocket, it's your lucky water.
If No Country for Old Men makes one thing clear, it's that few people cross paths with Javier Bardem's Anton Chigurh and live to tell the tale.
And you know what's going to happen now, Carson? You should admit your situation.
there would be more dignity in it.
The tension created by the distance placed between these two characters is palpable and central to the anxiety-inducing suspense of the film.
That's possible.
Number 3, Truman Burbank and Christof, The Truman Show.
I know you better than you know yourself.
Never had a camera in my head.
If you can't find the villain in a story, look for the guy pulling the strings. Since infancy, Truman has lived on a set populated by actors as the unsuspecting star of a reality TV show.
Somebody help me! I'm being spontaneous!
As the creator of The Truman Show, Christof is not explicitly evil, but his pursuit of art, success, and ratings has led him to treat another human being as a commodity.
While the world he inhabits is, in some respects, counterfeit, there's nothing fake about Truman himself.
Despite his attempts to control every aspect of Truman's constructed life, Truman's curiosity changes the narrative, transforming Christof into the true villain of the show.
You can speak. I can hear you. Who are you?
In desperation, Christof pleads with Truman via loudspeaker not to leave the set. But that's as close as they ever come.
It's okay, Truman. I understand. I have been watching you your whole life.
Number 2, Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope.
How did my father die?
A young Jedi named Darth Vader, who was a pupil of mine until he turned to evil, helped the Empire hunt down and destroy the Jedi Knight.
Darth Vader comes pretty close to shooting down his own son in the first Star Wars film. But apart from that close encounter, they don't actually meet until The Empire Strikes Back. That doesn't make the tension between them any less dramatic, though. Thanks to a self-sacrificial intervention by Obi-Wan Kenobi, Luke and company managed to escape without having to face off against the Sith Lord.
Run, Luke, run!
Without a proper introduction, Luke's initial impression of his estranged father is that he's a tyrant who murdered his friend and mentor. That forges a connection, but not exactly the kind of father-son bonding experience one might hope for.
No. It's not true. That's impossible!
Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are some honorable mentions.
I'd like to report a truck driver that's been endangering my life.
In that case, I'll have to give you the police, sir.
What are you worried about, Greek? Theoretically, we should already be dead.
Open Death Blossom Petal.
Everything you create is used to destroy.
Yeah. We call it human nature.
And the theory that if Bin Laden isn't there, you can sneak away and no one will be the wiser. But Bin Laden is there. And you're gonna kill him for me.
Number 1, James T. Kirk and Khan Noonien Singh, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Khan, bloodsucker.
Fans might not have liked J.J. Abrams' reinterpretation of the dynamic between these two in Star Trek Into Darkness, but few Trekkies can find fault with The Wrath of Khan, a fan favorite in the film series.
He tasks me. He tasks me, and I shall have him.
Kirk and Khan certainly get the chance to exchange words, threats, and angry glares via view screens and communicators throughout the movie. But Kirk and his nemesis never set foot in the same room.
Perhaps I no longer need to try.
Allegedly, this wasn't an intentional plot device, but rather a result of actor Ricardo Montalban being unavailable for much of the main production.
I shall leave you as you left me, as you left her, marooned for all eternity in the center of a dead planet, buried alive.
That limitation didn't seem to hurt the end result, however, as it went on to become the defining chapter in the conflict between these sworn enemies. Do you agree with our list? Can you think of any other memorable movies in which the hero and villain never come face to face?
Yeah.
For more elusive top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
Watch it all day, sweetie. It'll rot your brain.
Leo